Like, we're not talking about just surviving childbirth, because what is that? We are
Mm-hmm.
talking about the anointing that happens, the rite of passage that's available
Mm-hmm.
to us, and how for Black women, this has always been sacred. This has always been ancestral. Like, we have tools that we collect along the way.
What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
I'm Fee.
It's Melanie.
And Cody here, and you've tapped into
The
Mama's
Mama's
Den.
3 months.
See?
She's
She's
not
not
her
fingers
I
and
love
foot
it.
anymore.
Right.
Latham walks in and
The
it's like
best.
Melanie doesn't even know us anymore.
I know. Like, you turned your whole body towards her. Boxed out Cody.
No, I did not box out Cody. I'm not like this.
Well, friends listening, you know, we're here. The mamas are here. 3 of us and Melanie,
And Latham. Okay.
who is completely enthralled.
is
We're
so
all enthralled
funny.
by our guest today, Miss Latham Thomas.
Welcome. Welcome
you
to the
so much for
podcast.
having me.
Yes, we're excited to
Thanks
talk
for
to you.
coming.
I'm
We're
excited
so
to be
excited because
here.
you're. I mean, you're amazing, but you're also so cute.
So
Oh my
cute.
God, so are you?
So pretty.
Thanks.
I'm like obsessed. I feel like I'm just like enveloped and swaddled in love and
Yes.
swaddled in fashion
I
and
love
style
it.
and beauty and Black excellence
love
and
this.
mothering.
I love this for all of us.
Yes.
I have
So-
literally been following you forever.
Same.
I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm so
I'm
excited
like-
to be here. I was almost like, am I going to call her Ashley or Watermelon Egg?
You should do both. Whatever floats your boat.
Hilarious. Well,
Yeah.
guys, first off, how's everybody doing? One of us had a birthday.
Hey.
Oh,
Our special guest.
Hey.
Big Taurus season.
Taurus season, y'all, all day.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Earth signs. I'm a Capricorn.
Right?
Yes.
Earth is everything.
It
We
is.
need Earth.
Duh.
Right?
We need her. Well,
You
so-
also need water, though.
Okay.
We do.
Okay, water girl. They're all 3 water
We're all
signs.
water signs.
What's your sign?
Scorpio.
Scorpio. Ooh, what's your sign?
I'm Scorpio as well. Me and
What?
Felicia representing.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay,
Pray for
so okay, the water. You're
And we're both
outnumbered.
very
I'm
emotional.
very
too.
much
Yes.
outnumbered.
Yeah, but
You're
she has me, the Cancer balance.
Cancer
Yes.
does balance things.
The
It's true.
Capricorn.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's true.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
Well, Latham's birthday was May 3rd, and if you are listening to this, it is Mother's Day has come. However, we're recording this before Mother's Day. But before we even do that, let's talk a little bit about you, Miss Latham Thomas, who lives in New York but came to visit us here in LA, and we're so grateful.
I'm so
Yes,
grateful,
we
first of
are.
all.
Yes.
Right? Like, I was so excited to come here and just to be with y'all and be in this energy. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so author, doula,
Mhm.
I would say business owner, foundation. I'm trying to say like foundation runner, like foundation
Founder.
Foundation runner.
Okay. And so what is the story behind like you starting all of this and becoming an advocate for women and
Yeah.
our birthing journeys?
Yeah, so I have a son who's going to be 21 this summer.
Wow.
Which is
Mhm.
weird since you're
Wait a
22.
I
but
I know,
okay.
right?
How'd you do that? It's magic.
Wait
Oh,
a
I was a
second.
toddler. No,
This is
but
the sun, the July Cancer
yeah,
sun.
Cancer. He'll be 21 in July.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
I was literally imagining a little itty bitty 6-year-old son.
No, people think I'm like 21 months. I'm like, no, 21 years of age, 21 years
Wow.
alive
Yeah.
on
Years
this
of age.
planet.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that journey in women's health has been over 2 decades.
Yeah.
And then I'm really inspired by the birth that I had with him, which was just really beautiful in a birth center with midwives. My ancestors visited as I had this birth. And I had this, well, I'll share a little bit about it to not to go to digress too far. But I was navigating a pathway where there was not a lot of resources. And
Mhm.
people have to think back 20 years ago, which was really hard because you think about, well, we always had texting, we always had cell phones, but we did not. We had flip phones with like little antenna, right? We did not have texting. The texting
Yeah.
was like so rudimentary at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had
Yeah, I was gonna say,
sidekicks,
what are
right?
those?
We had the phone book, which is a relic now, but we did use that to like find
The
resources.
phone book.
Child the phone book, which is now like, we use the telephone book for multi-purposes.
Yes.
You get your hot
Mhm.
comb press and you be sitting on the phone book in the kitchen,
Listen.
right?
Step up
Yeah.
on that.
Right?
Yep.
The step stool, like all the things,
Yeah.
right? But I used it actually to find an OBGYN for her to only tell me that she couldn't see me for 5 months. And I was like, girl, what? Back up. I was like, how is it this challenging to navigate
Yeah.
maternal health? And you're having a baby, like I need a, practitioner. And so that was sort of like a little signal also to look elsewhere. And then I was living with my son's father in Chelsea at 222 West 23rd. And this is important because the birth center was 222 West 14th, which was 7 blocks away.
Oh.
So the numerology was like
Numerology.
numerologying,
Yes.
right? The numbers were numbering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we should go there. So the important caveat also was that this birth center was adjacent to the nightclubs we used to go to. So if anybody know Nell's, Up and Down, and the
Up
Derby,
and down and
right?
the Derby.
And the Derby.
Shout out to New York.
Shout
man.
out to New York.
To New York.
And the fact that my son thinks he was born in a nightclub because it was
Hilarious.
right
Right
next
across
door.
the street.
Sure,
Yeah.
same thing.
So same thing. And he became a DJ. So, whatever, same thing. But I go there and I have this amazing care,
Yeah.
right? And so part of the experience is that you take your own weight, you take your own urine samples, write this down when you go to the appointment. You can access your records, just go behind the desk. It was care with midwives, so they would see you. You would, do really long appointments, like an hour. And they also had like other classes and stuff. So I met other moms. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And then you birthed in like a room that was like a bedroom, right? It was really sweet, had skylights, it was gorgeous. And so it was very comfortable. And so I was very like at home. I felt safe there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was time for me to go into labor, the other thing too that they had was you did 21 hours of birth education, which I think is critical because if families have that, then you're like really prepared.
Yeah.
But also you had to be prepared for the experience you were going to have, which was out of hospital birth, right? Which was not with physicians and was also without drugs. So people like are looking for stuff, they ain't got it, right? So at one point I was like, oof, is there anything you can do? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, no, come here. I was like, is there anything you can do? And she was like, girl, you're doing so great. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. But, I had him and the experience I had right before he was born that was transformative for me was that I got out of the tub, I was birthing in the tub, and then his cord was wrapped around his shoulder, like kind of like a backpack strap, right? And so, but we don't know that until he's coming down. So they're like, let's get out of the tub. No pressure, no haste, no frightening, right? Just like, let's get out the tub gently, let's get in the bed, and let's have the baby now. Directive, but like calm, right? And so I hooked into that energy. And so I'm in the bed. My best friend who became an OBGYN, that was the first birth she actually attended. And then my son's father who was asleep half the time. But anyway, so he was there. They were on either side of me. And then my midwife's there. And she's like, okay, let's have the baby now. Like, release the baby. I was like, all right, cool.
She said,
And then
"Release."
I am sitting up. I'm like kind of in a squat. And then I feel this heat, like real, like hot around me. And I was like, what is that? I'm about to ignite. And I look to the corner, up in like to the ceiling. And I see like in this U shape, I see like ancestors. And I saw like the shape of them like a horseshoe, like behind my head like this, and it was open in the front. So I was like this, and I'm looking like, and there's this soul recognition. Like I couldn't recognize faces, but I felt like they were familiar, right? And so then I pointed, I said, I want to go there. And then I felt myself separate from my body and go up, and I watched my son be born. I described everything I saw happening in the room. Everybody else is listening to me. And they're like, she can't possibly see that from the vantage point she's in. And I was like, he has so much hair, and this is happening. And they were like, she can't see that. And I'm listening to them say, like, in disbelief what I'm describing, but I'm describing it from here.
Oh my God.
And so then, I deliver him. I watch him be born from this vantage point. I don't know when I feel myself come back into my body, but this astral thing that happens, which I now can explain, but I could not explain then. It unfolds, and then he comes, and then he's with me, and you feel this like high, and it's just like incredible, the euphoria and the endorphins, and it was amazing. And like 20 minutes later or so, when I was like back in my body, I was like, oh yeah, I have to protect this experience. Nobody said it could be this. Nobody said I would have this visiting. Nobody said I would have this sense of being held in this way, that I would be visited upon, that I would be anointed, that I would also be like carried across this threshold. And for me, what was important to communicate and what we do through Mama Glow as a through line is to reclaim the sanctity of the birth experience, to like raise the floor. Like we're not talking about just surviving childbirth, because what is that? We are talking about the anointing that happens, the rite of passage that's available to us, and how for Black women, this has always been sacred. This has always been ancestral. Like we have tools that we also and medicine that we collect along the way. And when we medicalize and we hyper, uh, we sort of um, sanitize and we politicize, and also we bring people into settings that harm them, that aren't protective of what they need. We actually rob them of that experience, right? And yes, you can have like incredible births in hospitals. I've attended so many of them. However, it's not designed for that, right? And so when we have these transcendent experiences, which is what we're owed, right? Like it's part of like your primal template to have a transcendent birth, transcendence.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be high,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's available to us. It's available to each of us. And so we need to restore our belief in our capacity for birthing, but also we need to be flanked with our village to remind us that we're safe when we're undergoing the process so we can actually go. Because if you don't feel safe, which is what many of us do not feel, we enter into spaces where we're like actually fighting for our lives, fighting for our dignity and safety, you can't also birth at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how I got here. It was really that experience that kind of catapulted everything. And then from there, it unfolds.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
Wow, that's a beautiful
Yeah.
story.
it is.
I love that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And so it unfolded into you as a doula,
Yeah.
but then also launching the foundation, Mama Glow. And you have a summit, right? Don't you have a?
Yeah, so we launched. So the foundation's like 4 years old. It
Uh-huh.
started in 2020, but Mama Glow is like 13 years
Okay,
old. So it's like
okay.
a teenager. She's sassy now, right? She's putting on lip gloss now, right? So what happened is during the time my son was growing, I would start to do solo doula work. I had a partner at the time that we started together, and then we would do tandem births and stuff together, which was like manageable for me with a small child. And then she moved, and I was like, oh, I gotta do it by myself. So then it's really challenging, by the way, right, to do on your own. And then I became a single mom when my son was like 3. So I'm like putting him in a snowsuit and then going downstairs of 4 flights in New York City and hailing a cab, which,
Yeah.
by the way, wasn't no Uber.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
hailing a cab and then being like, oh, snap, I don't have $20. I got to get out and go to the bank
Oh,
in the
my
middle of the
word.
night and then grab cash
Jeez.
and then get back in a car.
Ain't no Apple Pay.
No.
Ain't no
Ain't
Apple
no tap to
Pay.
pay.
Right? So it was just so much harder, right?
Yeah.
And then I dropped him off at his grandfather's and hailed another cab while it's snowing, by the way, and then go to my client giving birth in the middle of the night. So these were the things I was doing back then. And so I built that. I did hundreds of births. I would sometimes take like 3 to 4 clients a month, but typically like what was good for me was 2 and then 1 a month, right? After like just doing too many. And what I found was that, you can do this, but you really have to do it with the vision of it expanding beyond yourself,
Yeah.
right? And for me, I had to, I was called to do the work. Like it was definitely not like a choice. And I believe the difference is that like things that you're passionate about are like fun and provide ease and make you feel like, just like it's a thing that you can kind of escape into.
Mm.
A calling is not convenient. A calling
Ooh.
is never like the timing that you desire. A calling is something that's put onto your life that you have to step into. You have no choice. And the only choice is obedience. And when you don't obey, it keeps coming. It keeps calling you, right? And you're like, fine. And I'm a Taurus, so we're stubborn. So it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
When I finally got there, then I was like, okay, show me, like use me, use my body, like
Yeah.
use me as a vessel. And then everything was lining up because I had the courage. And I believe that, yeah, God and the universe rewards courage. And so if you go that path of what you're being called to do, you will be rewarded. All the angels and all the things that you need will help you and catapult you. And so that did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
So
You know
so
what
this
time it is.
happens, right? So that was real for me. And so then so everything's unfolding. And then Mama Glow is like nascent. And that's when I, was doing the doula work. And then I was like, okay, I gotta build it bigger. Let's start the training program so I can actually have people who are in the same ethos go out into the world. And so I developed that in 2018. I was like so scared to launch it. I was like, I keep pushing the date back and pushing the date back.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, my man was like, girl, if you don't just push this button on Instagram and like put this, I was like, okay. And so I was
Okay.
like, maybe 5 people will come. I was so scared.
That's what my question was what was the fear about launching it?
The fear was like nobody would come.
Mm.
The fear was no one will come. You don't have nothing to say. Who are you to do it? Like all those kinds of things that we have self-doubt,
Yeah.
Oh God,
right?
imposter
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yes, right?
Meanwhile, so
And
you've been doing the work all these years.
right. And but yes, exactly. But I was so terrified.
Yeah, self
And so then I pushed the button and then it like sold out. And then I was like dropping classes like Supreme. I was like, okay, boom, another drop, another drop, another drop.
one,
Right? And then people were signing up, y'all. And it was
Aw.
amazing. And it was
Yeah.
like booming. And so within 9 months, we expanded from New York to LA, Miami, and Paris. We had
Wow.
training.
And Paris, child.
Child, it was
Come on,
Paris
Patty.
too, girl.
Wee wee.
Okay. So we had all those training hubs. And then COVID came.
Yeah.
And COVID was a blessing for us because we grew like 8-fold.
Right.
Because
Oh,
we were
right.
Nobody's in
online.
hospitals, you're online, you need
Yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody was home,
Yes.
right? And they were like, I want to do something with my life.
Yeah.
And so people were like, okay, I want to move towards this, right? So we went from the 2018, which was like a moment where it was pivotal because we had that seminal reporting from ProPublica, New York Times about the Black maternal health crisis, right? That catapulted people. So we
Yeah.
had that big
Yep.
galvanizing moment where everybody wanted to become a doula. So we were in the zeitgeist in that moment with at the right time for the training. Then it was like 2020. Everybody wants to be, like contribute in a way. And like the Black Lives Matter movement was like resurging again, right? So there was this thing about like the movement for Black lives, protecting Black women. And that surged again during the 2020, which allowed us to also, and I had to like also figure out how to pivot to online in like 3 weeks, which we did.
Yeah.
And so then it was like, okay, boom, like we figured it out. And then we're just going from there. And then 2020 also was when we decided to launch the foundation. So it's been like a really beautiful journey. And then from there, the Doula Expo came, and which y'all gotta be at this year
Okay.
in
I'm here for
October.
it. Doula Expo, let's go.
Y'all gotta
Okay.
come.
October.
October 5th and 6th, and that's our culture shifting like festival that centers like a vision and future for birth work. And it's an amazing thing, and different brands activate there. It's like awesome. So
Okay.
so all these kinds of things come off of, like the initial, brand, which is about like, improving birth outcomes and centering birth equity, but also at its core, it's about like, the protecting the sanctity and beauty of this process.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
That's so
question.
beautiful.
Not a question. I have a comment. I feel like I say this every single episode, but I feel like it is so beautiful that us becoming mothers helps us propel into our purpose.
Yes.
And I just feel like it's such a priceless thing. It's an
Mhm.
experience. So I love that you're doing this. I'm like, I
Thank
feel you.
you.
I feel you.
My
on a
son will
deep
definitely
level.
say it's him. He's the reason.
Yes.
He always says like, "Oh yeah, I'm
Like,
the
you're
reason Mama
welcome.
Glow
I love
exists."
it.
Just so y'all know.
It is.
100%. Look,
Right?
for real. It's
Yeah.
real.
So-
It's
I
real.
love
So
it.
how soon after you had your son? So did you have any interest in birth work and any of that prior to having your son?
That's a great question. So when I graduated college, I studied visual arts and environmental science, and I was thinking that I was gonna be a biologist, and then I was like, "Ooh, I'm like too loud for the labs." Like I was turning up in the labs. They're like, "Girl, you cannot do that in here." I was like, "We can't bring people." They're like, "No, you cannot be up here." And then I went to the art labs, and I was like, "Oh, they smoking weed. They got playing Slum Village." I was like, "This is my crew." So I started going to the art labs, and so I would do like my visual arts practice there, and then I stayed in the sciences, and I moved out of biology. I moved into plant systems, botany, and then studied like environmental science.
Oh.
And that allowed me to like kind of get my earth piece and then
Yeah.
my arts piece and like all that, So
Mhm.
it was nurturing for me. But coming out of that, right, I was like a new graduate. And when I met my son's father, I was like 23 or so. So I was still in the school mode. Like I was still like on my school insurance at that point. And so I had always had interest in women's health I would say primarily because of my mom teaching me body literacy really at an early age. Like I was like 4 years
Literacy.
old when I
Okay.
was when she was pregnant with my sister,
Mhm.
and my sister's Taurus also May 13, and I was essentially reading Grey's Anatomy and color and doing Grey's Anatomy coloring book. I was watching PBS, and there was a show called My Mom's Having a Baby, which I still remember the jingle for.
Mhm.
Mm.
And then she would just go over body parts with me. So by time she was like 7 months, and we were like out in public one day, um, this woman comes up to her. She's like, "Oh, that's so cute. Your mother has a baby in her tummy." I was like, "Oh no, my mother has a baby in her uterus. It's gonna come out of her vagina."
Hello.
And so she
That sound
was
like my
like,
kids.
"Yeah." So that
Hello.
was like my thing, right?
Yeah.
So I had that, and so those seeds were planted like that early.
Yeah.
But then later, right, it would be that my experience with my own body and my own birthing, and also being the first of my friends, because like nobody was having babies that early. Like all my friends now, by the way, like when I was pregnant then, they now having babies,
Right.
and my
Yeah.
son's
Girl.
in college.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oof, like like chasing behind a 2-year-old at like 44. Wow.
Child.
Right.
Wait,
So and I know that's a life.
I
That's
was
a
like,
life.
yes, I'm looking at it.
That's a life.
Or
That's a
not
life.
44,
Wait,
relax.
I'm
I
not
was gonna say,
44, but I have a 2-year-old.
Mel
Yes.
probably like,
Yeah.
Those
Can I-
2-year-olds, once their
I
legs,
have a
them little
2-year-old now.
legs,
Hilarious.
they are so fast.
Yeah.
Wait, I have one question about even reconciling like purpose and passion and
Yeah.
all of the amazing like skills that you had
Mm.
and business, right? Like
Mhm.
Felicia's about to launch her nonprofit.
We're ready.
We all run various businesses.
Yep.
Like that part to me is, I think, sometimes the challenge as a mom, or even now, I think all of us have been doing it for a certain number of years, but like
Mhm.
the nonprofit for Felicia is about to be very new. And I think we have listeners too who are moms. It's like,
Yeah.
we're always saying start a business and be your own boss and all that. But like, how was that transition for you?
Yeah. So
How do you prepare?
so I have a
Good
few
question.
things to say about that. And like we're here for you. I'm happy to help. I know so many things about nonprofits that I can teach you
Oh, I
now.
love
Look
it.
at God.
Okay,
love it.
so we'll talk.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
And what I would say is this. I was always like a little bit hard-headed and not really a good not a good listener, but just like wouldn't pay attention. So I had to like always do my own thing.
Mhm.
And so when
Taurus.
people
Yeah.
yeah,
My
always
sister's a
Earth
Taurus.
sign.
right?
I
Like we
know.
can't.
Earth
So
signs.
yeah, it's an earth sign thing to be like, no, I gotta just do my thing, right?
Mhm.
So so that's where we started with like always moving in the direction of like being a contractor or a consultant or starting. So even within Mama Glow and the other things that we do, I still get to like creatively do those types of things like projects and stuff that's outside of the work that we related to the work that we do. um but I think it's like you learn as you go. So a lot of people think like I gotta have business experience, I gotta take this class and that. You just really have to like go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you learn and you meet and you sync up with the right people who have skills that you may not develop, but you might need in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that there's value in learning some of these things if it's going to be something that you actually practice. But then I think it's really good to like, enroll people in your vision and then have some people who are really much better than you
Mhm.
come do those things.
Yeah.
Because we've spent a lot of time also like over credentializing and like
Mm.
weighing on like, oh well, I don't have this, so then I can't do that. And it actually prevents us from putting things out into the world. And there's people who have like no credibility, no expertise, no, and they like they go to one class, they go to like a lecture, and they're like, I'm about to start a business off of this
Yeah.
person's thing.
Yeah.
And so they'll take what you left as crumbs and like build something
Yeah.
while you're too busy telling yourself you can't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that's one thing, and is really important, like getting those people on board to help. And then I think the other piece is like for me, I did a lot of journaling too. So I saw iterations. So I was able to look back and be like, oh, I did that thing. Okay, cool. And check in with self. And so have self-reflective moments around like your accomplishment, and also not tying your worth really to like productivity. Because I think people also get really like, oh, did I get this done? Did I get done? Checklist, which is like capitalism, and I think that prevents us from really stepping into purpose a lot of the time, because sometimes what you're doing is it's really important to focus on actually taking the time to build and nurture it first. And when you can do that right and design the right thing that people need or what the world needs, if it's meant to flourish, like it needs you to pour in and nurture it, right? And so a lot of times we're so focused on like launch and get this out there and blah blah and make money, and sometimes it takes like years for
Yeah.
something, right?
Word.
And so I think that's an important thing, like slow,
Yeah.
steady, don't rush, go at your own pace. Like I was really good at my own pacing. And I think that's very helpful. And Taurus is too, because you can't like we're like, oh, you pulling my horns, I'm going slower, right? So there's that, but I think but really like self-pacing is so important, because if you start to feel um disoriented or ungrounded or dislodged, or you won't continue if you don't feel
Mhm.
like you're anchored, right? If you don't have community around you, if you don't feel like you have support.
Mhm.
So I think that those are really important pieces. And also know who you can trust, because there's people who are in your life, right?
Mhm.
And some people are wishing things but not wishing you well.
Mm.
And so making sure that you have a really tight unit that you can share things, bounce things
Mhm.
around with. And
Game changer.
yeah,
It's a
that's
Yeah.
game
huge,
changer.
right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
having that.
I think it's very big. It took me time because I had trust issues, but it took me time
Yes.
to actually recognize that these people want me to do well and they love
Yeah.
me and they care about me. But the way that I was able to show up and be vulnerable was such a like it was therapy for me, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I was gonna say too? I was gonna say, I think it's important as we are stepping into purpose. I always tell myself, do all you can do and God will take care of the rest, you
Yeah.
know?
Won't he?
And I really feel like when you do, like you said, you just start anywhere
Start.
because God is going to put the people along the way. And if you don't get the person or whatever it is that you need, it might not be time,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I so agree with you. Yeah.
Aw.
Definitely.
Okay.
This is why we have a nonprofit.
That's
This is
right.
why we both,
That's
we're
why you
like, I'm
both
like, yes,
help
you're singing to
mamas.
you're talking to my soul.
Yes.
You both help
Mhm.
mamas with your nonprofit.
Well, let's
Yeah.
help another mama.
I know
Yeah,
that's
We
let's
right.
have
help
a
a mama.
question
Yeah.
of the day.
Question of the day.
Yes.
So,
Ding,
All
ding,
day,
ding,
baby,
ding,
baby.
Latham,
ding.
you can answer this. It
Okay.
says, my partner and I are trying to have a second child.
Okay.
Our first is very clingy. What are some tips to make sure that he feels a part of the process and can embrace being a big brother rather than feeling left out and he's no longer the baby?
What age, I wonder? Does it say?
No, but it says no longer the baby and he's clingy. So I'm just going to gauge that the
Toddler.
baby
It's a
is
Toddlerish.
toddler,
probably
yeah.
toddler. They're probably young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, I think with parenting, so a couple of things. When a new baby's on the way, you can hire a sibling doula who can
Oh.
help you with
Didn't
transition.
know that
So
was a
just one
thing.
thing to share. But I would say that it's a milestone, right? To have a new child come into the fold. And so a couple things, always having like time that's just one-on-one with them, that's really
Mhm.
Yeah.
special. And encouraging age appropriate activities that sort of help them be responsible and also help them feel like they're helping and they're
Mhm.
useful
Yes.
Yeah.
and integrated, I think is important. Doing a little project before the birth, like, making this thing for your little
Oh, cute.
sibling,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Talking and maybe like doing goodnight prayers and things like that, just like ritualizing for the
Mhm.
preparation. But knowing that like they regress, right?
Yes.
Because if you were the only child, there is you do have this crestfallen moment where all the attention does flood towards a newborn.
Mhm.
And so then it's like, oh, if I cry, somebody's going to come hold me again.
Right.
If
Yep.
I do this, if I pee my pants, or
Mhm.
so they
Right.
will do these kinds of things. And it's okay. And not to punish, but to remind them that they're like a big boy or big girl
Mm.
now also. And that like only babies are wetting the bed. How are
Mhm.
you wetting your bed? But
Yeah.
playful, but like not chastising, I
Yeah.
think is really
Yeah.
important. And one other thing I think is so key when welcoming a new one, because I don't believe in clinginess.
Really.
No, I do think that children are hardwired from birth with expectation to be cared for by
Mhm.
buffering adults,
Mm.
right? Every mammal is, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so well adjusted newborns seek to develop relationship and bonding through secure attachment. And so part of how children securely attach is through touch,
Mhm.
Mhm.
is through eye gazing, is through being in your life, is climbing all over you in the middle of the night and kicking you through the face while they
Mhm.
sleep with you in the bed,
Oof.
Yeah.
right?
Is that why
Whatever.
they do that?
That's secure attachment, right?
Yes.
So this is part of what they do. So the idea of like taking, because like we sleep in the same bed as our partners and stuff, typically, but then the babies sleep in another room, right? And so they're like, why am I over here?
Yeah.
Where
Yep.
they're over there with the warmth, they over there in the bed, like, where, let me go
Girl,
get in
my
the bed.
baby's in my bed every
My
night.
baby been in my bed, right? So my baby
Okay.
was in my bed for a
Three of
long
mine.
time. He was in that bed for a long time, and then I let him choose when he was ready to leave.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
And
beautiful.
so, and he always had a little room, but and he's a Cancer, so they do need their own time to like recharge after like being in social settings and
Mhm.
things like that. They need alone time. And so he really appreciated that, but he also appreciated that he could always come in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so he actually he developed into a really independent and like very well adjusted, self-actualized child. But he started, like all children do, as dependent because
Mhm.
they're supposed to be interdependent with us. And
Yeah.
so the idea that you want to hurry up and like make them
Grow up
grow
or
up a little
yeah.
bit
Yeah.
is we have to move that off
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
I
they're not
agree.
going to. They're not mini adults. They're children.
Yes.
And so let them be children.
Mhm.
And yeah, if they're clinging, that's also communication.
Yeah.
Right. You
I
know
agree
what?
with you.
I would also say too, as a mother with many children,
Yes.
I would second guess having another child if that is not something that you feel like you are emotionally capable of doing. And I think a lot of times people don't think about that because your child that exists now, the next baby is going to want the same amount of attention.
Yeah.
So if you're
Mhm.
feeling like you need to try to like you said, usher them along, then maybe having multiple children isn't for you because even now, like my baby is always on me and my other daughters
Mhm.
are, and I'm literally telling the baby, like, they're my babies too. Like, and I
Yeah.
have to hold all of them and they're
You have to
all in the
hold
bed
all of
with me and
them.
they all want to be in the shower with me. And I do too. I don't mind it. This is why I don't have energy for other humans though. Because like I
Right.
am 1,000% in with my girls. Like I give
I
them
so feel
all
you.
of me and emotionally and physically because for the same reason my mom was the same way as me with me. She let
Mhm.
me cling to her as long as I wanted. And when I was ready to
Mhm.
go, when I was 30, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
But when I
But
moved
this is
here,
so
yeah, but
key.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that love and secure, that's exactly what it is. I feel so safe and secure with my mom. And I know that's why my
Yes.
daughters are like that with me. And I don't ever want to break that.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no
So,
Yeah.
age limit, right?
mm-mm.
And there's no, like, we have to develop, like, it is our job to ensure that children become well adjusted and, but also that they have compassion. And so we
Yeah.
are, it's like emotional intelligence gets
Yes,
Yeah.
developed,
yes.
right? By having connection, by, having touch. And so, so yeah, so I'm big on that.
Me
Like,
too.
and then having a cancer child, they are so cuddly and so huggy and so sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting. It just made a connection, which is interesting because we're talking about, you're like, oh, I feel so safe. It's interesting because I think that's something that as adults, we look for with our parents. And
Mhm.
you don't realize that it's like, oh, wait a second. Like the thing that, maybe I felt was a crutch or something as a child is the same thing that I would love to have as an adult with my parents,
Yeah.
and that's something that I think anybody can relate to. You do want to get to a place in your life with your parents where you do still feel safe
Yep.
and you do still feel close and you can
Mhm.
go crawl in their bed and say, I love you, mom and dad, I miss
Yep.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's interesting.
Yep.
It's a really interesting perspective to think
Well, that
about that.
only exists if you nurture that as a child because we forget that like we sometimes want to usher our children to be
Yeah.
grown, but then
Mhm.
when you create that distance and that lack of like that's my safe space, then I think what happens is parents when they get older they want to be close to their children, but
Yes.
you've already created that divide,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like ingrained. You have to literally fight to have that bond if it's not created as a
I feel like
child.
that's
Right.
what I'm
Yeah.
It's
doing. I
so
called my
true.
mom the other day and I was like, something, I don't know, something felt so not heavy on my spirit, but it was just bothering me.
Mhm.
And I was like, with me stepping into this nonprofit, the foundation is the way that I was raised and
Yeah.
the things that I've experienced and
Mhm.
that we saw snippets of. But I
Yeah.
told my mom, I was like, in this season right now, I really need you to be like my best friend. And she was
Mm.
like, cool, I got you. But it's taken 33, it's
Mhm.
taken a while,
Yes.
but I was like, no, right now it feels right.
Mm.
So I'm but I think it is. It's
Mhm.
like there was this separation, single mom because she
Yep.
was working and stuff, but I've
Mhm.
had to fight and literally be like,
Yeah.
no, we are going to make this work. Mother,
Yeah.
That's
Mother.
beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But shout out to you also for like doing the work to
Right.
make that a choice because
Mhm.
so many people, right? Like if you know, with adults in our lives, I see so many people like, well, it's my mom, but I'm like, yeah, like
Yeah.
why don't we do that work, right?
Man,
Like
what?
Right.
Mhm.
it's important to do the work.
How
I
do
mean,
you
there's a
have
whole
real peace, like real peace of mind, like real peace of
Yeah.
mind?
I was just about to
Yeah.
say though, on the other end, it's like, you everybody has to be willing to do the work.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that
true.
that is child, that's a whole other podcast
Yeah.
That's
episode.
Have to
true.
come back for
But
that
Right.
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
come
that,
back for
that
that one.
having like the desire to want to do the work, but it has to
Yep.
be the other end has to also
Gotta
be
be
willing
both
to do the
ways.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't lose hope because I tell you, my dad is like 60. I don't know how old he is. Is he 60 something? He's 60 something.
Oh, I
We
don't
we
I
go
don't
through
lose
this all the
hope.
time with my dad. I don't know how old he is. But, anyways, it's fine. He's like 3 years younger than my mom. She was born in 1970. I don't know, 57.
Yeah.
Whatever. The math doesn't matter. But the point
Tiffany
is that
telling us to
he
come
is,
on.
I know we're wrapping it up, but the point is that he is continuously calling me and working every day. And like,
Yeah.
I just want to tell you I was
It's
sorry for what happened
beautiful.
when you were 15. And like, I
Mm.
love you. And so don't lose hope on your parents either.
Yeah, no.
I kept on pushing with my dad, and we're like this.
Yeah. I'm
So
like, how are we
yeah,
gonna lose hope? I'm like, you
some
the
people
reason why we're
do.
here.
Some people
I'm
do.
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Shout out to our mamas.
Shout out
Yes.
to all the mamas.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, Latham, thank you so much for coming and
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having
Yes.
me.
So happy you were here in
Beautiful.
LA.
I
Me too.
know. I might end up being out here, y'all. Well, my son's gonna be out here for the summer doing an internship,
Oh,
so I am
lovely.
gonna be
Okay,
coming out
great. We're
here.
here.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
come back.
And I need some friends
Oh,
here.
we're here.
We got you,
Well, you
girl.
already have a best friend
You
right
already
there.
already
so
got
let's
me
go.
right here.
So tell folks where to find you and follow you.
Yeah, so if you are interested in becoming a doula, you can come to mamaglow.com. We have training coming in June. They're online, they're super accessible. We have childbirth ed, we have breastfeeding, all kinds of different courses. If you are looking for that kind of support, we can help you. We have like 3,000 doulas across the country and globe. And so if you want like somebody amazing and fly to come support you through
Wow.
this journey, we got you.
Facts.
And if you are somebody who, can't afford to hire a doula, we also have through the nonprofit Mama Glow Foundation pro bono doula services.
Oh, wow.
And in New York, we're the largest provider of pro bono doula services in New York
Wow.
City. So, but beyond that, across the country, we can support. So reach out to us there too if you would
Amazing.
like. And there's no barrier for Black women. It's like we don't need you to give us your social, your paperwork, nothing. Come and say that you're there and the support is there, right?
Mm.
So that's critically
Yes.
important
That's
to us.
beautiful.
And then I guess social, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
like Mama Glow on Instagram, Glow Maven on Instagram. I haven't figured out no TikTok. Don't ask me about that, y'all.
That's all right.
It's
They
a whole
haven't
other
either.
world.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
For the
you.
folks that want to connect with us,
Hey,
you can hit us
hey.
on IG at the Mama's Den Podcast. And you can also send us questions like the question of the week that we answer every episode at podcasts. Wait, is that right? Podcasts with an S at blacklove.com. And, watch us every week on YouTube, on Black Love's YouTube page.
On
Thank
Tuesdays.
you.
Hey,
Thank you,
hey.
Latham.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so